I'm not going to talk really at all about technology. I work for a very technology-focused company, 3, who run, at the moment, the smallest UK mobile network. Within a year or so, we may well be running the biggest, depending on whether we're allowed to actually complete the merger of O2, which was announced back in January. So what I thought I'd do is actually just start. So if I'm the corporate affairs guy, I'm the dull guy who sits in the management meetings and hears what the finance director and the CEO and the operations guys are worried about. So what I thought I'd do is just try and set a bit of context about how we think about campaigns and about PR, because these guys are then going to talk about some brilliant stuff that we're doing, but they know far more about. So, but remember that this doesn't do that. So, I just thought I'd start with some really basic platitudes, which I'm sure you are all well aware of and absolutely focused on and get pissed off when things don't work as they should. But that's where we start from. We don't worry about what the output is. It's a bit like if you're playing poker, when you see the guy's eyelid flicker, that's an output. But what was the outcome that caused that to happen? That's what you really want to know. Focus on where you're going and being absolutely razor sharp about what you're trying to achieve before you try and measure it. My first CEO at 3, we run quite a detailed media evaluation through Metrica. And I took it into him to say, look, this is where we're going, and this is how our scores are at the moment. And he flicked through it, and he just chucked it in the bin. Said, I really don't want to see that again. It doesn't tell me anything I don't know already from talking to people around the business. So he knew where we're going, but it wasn't giving him any information that added value. So third one is measure what counts. And in order to do that, you don't just go and measure. You work out what your objective is, and then you have to be brave about having the conversations about, does it really count? There's a lot of pressure on this. So Precise, they're our monitoring agency. You probably use them as well, one of the big monitoring companies. And obviously they're marketing saying this, but they're basically saying that we need to demonstrate value. We need to understand the role of media, and let's talk about, we're calling all influencers play in shaping reputation, and we need to get into the heart of social media channels. So, yeah, absolutely, there's more pressure on this, but what does that mean? If you go into the boardroom, they really only care about these 2 things. And in fact, how do I make that as quickly as possible before I get fired because the chairman's pissed off again and we haven't made our numbers? So everything translates back to that in one way or another. Obviously, people are hugely important, and how we manage people, build teams, and engage with our objectives. But in the end, those are the things that we're focused on. They also like principles. And because principles let you translate from that sort of dark place that is the boardroom into the reality of what people like us are doing out there on the road. So, has everyone come across, someone, you just been to Barcelona? Yeah? Have you come across the Barcelona principles?
The Barcelona principles from Gaudí's, familiar, yeah.
Good. So is everyone familiar with the Barcelona principles? Yeah? 7 simple things that, amazingly, a bunch of PR people got together in Barcelona, led by the AMEC group, whatever they are, Association of Measurement and Evaluation and Communications. And they managed to boil down to these 7 things, the principles around measurement. And I think they're brilliant. I didn't realize, I didn't know about these until a couple of years ago, but basically that's what's been driving my thinking ever since I did PR. And it was like, oh, great. There are other people who are thinking like that. Fantastic. So what I thought I'd do is take those 7, rather than going through them, and do ask me questions about them, what I think, ask these guys where they fit in. I thought I'd just quickly go through one campaign that we ran at 3 to try and change the industry over the past 3, well, it was 3 years, 2009 to 2012, 13, just to try and give you a little bit of context before I hand over. So, you might recognize one of those guys. If you've worked with BT, This is John Petter, who's the CEO of BT Retail, all the consumer end of BT. And he wanted to get his hand on some money. And because at the time, back in 2008, BT were, because you had to, in mobile, you have this thing where you pay to complete a call. So every time you guys make a call from a fixed line to mobile, you paid about 6p, and at least as a starting price. And in mobile, if you called Vodafone from O2, you paid 6p. So great revenue for us, and it was there originally because if you don't move money from the monopoly fixed line into mobile, mobile networks can't afford to build out and they die. But the mobile networks were getting quite strong, and BT was getting upset that it was paying out 700 or 800 million a year in these payments. But they didn't know it, they hadn't worked that bit out. But we worked it out because we were a small company, and because we were small, we have lots of calls going out to Vodafone O2, so we were paying out 200 million of our money at the same time as we were losing 800 million a year. We were paying this money to the other operators. So how do you get these prices to come down? You get the big fat guys at BT to get out there and be your mascot for the campaign. And that's what we did. We funded the whole damn thing and probably planned most of it, but they saw the reason to do it and gave us their brand and gave us their influence. So our goal was to bring this price down from 6p to 1p over 3 or 4 years. Then you start thinking, okay, we've got a corporate, the top level goal, but then you've got to dive down to your communication goals. This is all in the Barcelona principles. Now we start looking at things like reach. What awareness do we want? What do people understand? Do they understand anything? Do they understand a lot? Are they with us? Are they against us? What attitude do you want to shift? And in the end, our overall long-term strategy was to move. If you remember 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, we were still doing this all the time. And we're building a data network, and we want people to do what I'm doing now, which is hold their device up in front of them. So we're in changing people's behavior. So what behaviors do we want to shift? Where are they now and where are they going to move? So these are all communication goals. Then you can start thinking, right, what does that mean in terms of evaluation? So what are the strategies and the tactics going to be that we will evaluate? And surprise there, or maybe not, coverage was one of the last things we looked at. Because in the end, we worked out there were core groups of influencers that we needed to reach. And they weren't going to be reached or changed in their thinking and their behavior just through the media. It had to be done in other ways. Because a lot of the change we wanted to see was in the regulator, in government, politicians, and in customers. And customers don't change their behavior around campaigns just because of the media. Then you can work out what you're going to measure. So that's the point I want to get across. If you don't have this hierarchy in place, you don't think about it from the top level goal, you end up measuring all sorts of crap that you really don't need, and your CEO just throws the report in the bin and says, you haven't achieved anything for me. So early in the campaign, we were looking at how are we growing the campaign? What partners are we getting on board? Who's actively pushing things for us? We got the NSU, National Students' Union, just up the road online. We got Unite, Trades Union online. We got hospitals online because they were all not being able to do stuff because they couldn't afford to do lots and lots of calls from their offices out to mobile networks. They got behind us and gave us weight to the campaign. That's what we measured to start with. It was only later on you start measuring what have your outputs had in terms of outcomes within the campaigning circle. So people signing up to a petition, letters to MPs, attendance at events, feedback from stakeholders. It's only here you're starting to get into some of the more smart technical things. You need to know where the world's going amongst your stakeholder groups first. So in terms of measurement criteria, then I suppose the one thing I want to say here, so often we just measure, it's right in there, I think it's number 5 in the Barcelona Principles. Advertising value equivalent is not a measure of PR. So we never look at how many column inches, we never look at how many bits of coverage. We only look at the bits of coverage that read back loud and clear our message, either in the headline or in the copy. But the headline is inevitably a lot more important. Back to that point about outcomes and not outputs. That is an illustration of one of my favorite moments ever in PR. As part of the campaign, we wanted to change one particular CEO's opinion of what we were doing. Now, there's nothing there about achieving volume. It's about achieving one incident. And the way we chose to do it was to work with the Financial Times and just get one story in one morning, because he knew he didn't believe we were being serious. We knew if he saw one piece of coverage in the Financial Times with the right names against it, he would do what the cartoon character seems to be doing there. And he did. So again, it's all about what's the outcome you want to achieve. He shifted his opinion. He brought his company over to join us. And suddenly we had another really important player in the telecoms industry on the campaign. And then quantity and quality. Yeah, we love showing our coverage books, but in the end, one really targeted piece of coverage can make all the difference. So to summarize, my one overarching ask is, it might not be a corporate goal, but it might be a campaign goal, it might be a marketing goal. Understand your goal, understand what you're trying to achieve. Don't be afraid to challenge, to go and sit down with the CEO, the marketing director, your client lead, whoever it is, and really work to make that goal absolutely clear between the two of you. I always prefer quality over quantity. Quantity you can buy in advertising. Quality is about getting that one hit that works. And if you've got any doubt about what I've just said, go and just Google Barcelona Principles. It's a lovely place, as the lady in the front row knows. And so are the principles. They're cool. Thank you.